Don't even go looking for advice until you have 100 reps in what you are trying to do. Differentiate between important and irrelevant tasks. Anytime we make decisions, it must go through a test of, will it matter in 5 minutes? Will it matter in a week? Will it matter in a year? Hey there, I'm Sagar Soni. If you are a chronic overthinker, a wannabe productivity expert, and is having a hard time understanding how to squeeze productivity out of every waking minute, but also learn how to take a chill pill, then you are in the right place. Let's learn from successful people, YouTubers, book authors, podcasters, and every other stranger that I can get my hands on. Well, figuratively, let's learn how they balance their life. Welcome to Beyond the Speech. No one got off their ass without a little bit of hope in their heart. Matthew Dix. This is a guy who almost died when he went through his windshield during a head-on collision for his car accident, lying on a greasy McDonald's floor with a gun to his head, which gave him PTSD, arrested for a crime that he did not commit for losing some thousands of dollars, is a wedding DJ because he said yes once to his friends and now has 500 weddings under his belt, all because he lives by this very specific rule called the 100-year-old rule. More on that later. Now has multiple fiction books and 3 non-fiction books under his belt, and finally owns a storytelling organization where he teaches everyone storytelling. All of this because in high school, after being able to make his classmates laugh based on assignment, where the task was to be satire, he was successfully able to make his classmates laugh. And at that moment, even though he knew that there might not be a roof over his head at the end of that school year, he had hope. That's why he says that all you need is a little bit of hope. That's the kind of guy we are working with today. And today we are talking about his book, Someday is Today. Even though you might have read many productivity books before, I would recommend listening to this on Audible because Matthew, he's the narrator. He brings his own essence, and this book has its own charm in a listening experience. That's what I would recommend. It's not easy to replicate that. The book is about productivity and how we need to evaluate our time, where how we spend our time is important, where you want to buy back your time because time means freedom, and buying back means that there is a cost to that level of freedom. That's the point of this book. Principle 1. Differentiate between important and irrelevant tasks. How does one do that? In our minds, everything is important and every task on our to-do list needs to be done before the end of the day. But that's on the basis of your current thoughts and feelings. But instead, if we utilize this rule called the 100-year-old rule, then it helps put things into a different perspective. This is an opposite concept like the book Essentialism, where Greg McKeown, the author, talks about the art of saying no. If you say yes to everything, you are not really saying yes to everything, and it's an automatic no because the focus is divided. But in this book, it's not about focus. It's how you value your time and how you fill it with the most important tasks on your list. For example, he's talking about it's a Friday evening and he's writing a couple of pages that his editor has put a deadline on for him. But at the same time, his kid is pulling on his t-shirt from the floor, asking him to join him on the floor and play with him. Now, his current state of emotions and thoughts is telling him to write that damn page, but his 100-year-old version is not going to remember this Friday evening and how he spent it to write that last page for his editor. But there will come a time where this kid is not going to pull that t-shirt and ask him to play forever. That will come to an end. And that's why that 100-year-old version will be more glad that he's spending that time playing with his kid instead of working on that last page. Because that page can be worked on at a different part of the day or on a later day entirely. It won't matter in the grand scheme of things. Now, when I think about this in actionable items, the way I like thinking is that, will I remember watching Friends or Modern Family or Office for the billionth time when I'm lying on my deathbed? Or will I be happy that in this moment, my 100-year-old self will be glad that this moment I'm spending to improve my life and working on something like this podcast script or recording this podcast? What will my 100-year-old version say about this very moment? So that's why asking your 100-year-old version is a good indicator of what you should be doing right now. That's the point here. And don't get me wrong, even Matthew brings it up, that if you prioritize spending 2 to 3 hours watching TV and spending time with your wife or partner or your family, and you count that as couple time spent together, if you're happy with that, sure, there is room for that. But then the purpose of spending quality time with your family and friends goes out the window because you're just watching TV in the moment. You're not really communicating and developing that relationship. So we really need to identify what we are doing in the moment. So the next time you feel like I need to work 2 to 3 hours daily on a side project, on a side hustle, but a friend calls up on a Friday night and is asking you to join this club party or a concert or this movie night, know your priorities. If your friend is really near and dear to you, remember to join that friend. Prioritize your work on a different day, because that 100-year-old version of yourself will remember that Friday night spent with your friend and cherishing that memory, not working on that side hustle that could have been worked on at a later day. So just something to think about there. The reason behind this is because there are certain cracks throughout the day that can be utilized, which are currently going wasted because we are not able to properly utilize those cracks, those what Matt calls is the black holes that we have throughout the day. Now, this part is not in the book, but I think we don't understand the importance of deep work hours. If we really are able to focus for 2, 3, 4 hours and get into that flow state, then we don't have to constantly worry about, oh, let me finish this thing. Oh, I still have to do this thing. Let me finish this right now so that I can be relaxed tomorrow. The idea of deep work comes from the book Deep Work by Cal Newport. And it is so important that if we are able to focus 4 hours, 3 hours, distraction-free in the given day, that is going to allow you to open up your time that the 100-year-old version of yourself will be glad you spent it this way. That's the whole point here. Now, the whole point is summarized in a line that Steve Jobs says, I'm sure everybody knows this. Remembering that I'll be dead soon is the most important tool I have ever encountered to help me make the big choices in life. You just have to decide what those big choices are. All right, principle number 2, 86,400 seconds. Matthew talks about where he's talking to this lady who has joined him to learn about writing. But instead of just writing, she's talking about novelists and agents and editors and sales and marketings and book royalties. So Matt stops her and asks her, how's the book coming along? And she says, I haven't started yet. Her excuse was that she cannot necessarily work on it unless she has 2 to 3 hours of working hours that she can dedicate time for this book, because she doesn't have the perfect environment and she needs that. She needs to sit down in that perfect coffee shop background and spend hours and hours on end. And she wants to dedicate 1 full year just for this book. Now, I like what Matt was about to say here. This is just what he's thinking in his mind. He doesn't say this out loud. He's thinking that this person doesn't want to write books. She likes the idea of being written. She doesn't like the idea of sitting down and working on her craft of writing, but she likes the idea of spending that Wednesday 11 a.m. at a coffee shop because she's earning from this book that she wrote a while back. But that's not how Matt puts it out in front of her. What Matt actually says is that you were 7 minutes late today. And that just shocks the lady. And she's like, I'm so sorry that I was late. And she starts giving excuses. But Matt's like, I'm not complaining about this. And that's not the point of those 7 minutes late. The point is that in those 7 minutes, I wrote 9 sentences. He actually rotates his laptop and shows her those sentences. And he tells her that an average novel is anywhere from 5,000 to 10,000 sentences. Now I am 9 sentences closer. He explains her that, yes, everybody would benefit from those bouts of time in that perfect preferred environment of that coffee shop with 0 distractions around you. Everybody would benefit from that. But that's not how you write a book. If you don't have deep work, then the next best alternative is to filling out the time that is being wasted otherwise. And he gives a very great example in this book about utilizing the small cracks of time. And he talks about how he started his second book, where the story is that he finished his first book. He writes the very last sentence. He gets excited. He calls his wife all excited and tells her that he has finished his first book. And she congratulates him and says that she's going to be home in a few hours. Let's go out for lunch and we'll celebrate. He hangs up and then he raises his arms all excited, sighs, and gives out a relief that yes, his first book is complete. Now, once the excitement is down, he starts wondering, okay, it's going to be a few hours before she comes home. What should I be doing? So he opens up Microsoft Word, clicks on File, New, a blank new document opens up, and he writes Chapter 1. That's how he started his second book, mere minutes after finishing his first ones. Why? Because he had a couple of hours to kill. That's it. He's a teacher by profession, but he didn't write 11 of those books by writing it just after work or during summer vacation because he has that time off. He did it by just filling all of these times, by writing it early morning before his kids wake up or during lunch hour at work. He started writing sentences when people are late at those meetings. That's what the point is he's trying to relay here. He seems to be the master of utilizing these small time blocks, or he even pairs some chores that he has to do, some mundane tasks that everybody does, pair it with something that he needs to do as part of his to-do list. For example, if the entire family is going to go out, but he has little kids, instead of waiting at the door and yelling why everybody is not ready, if he knows that it's going to be a few minutes, he would start writing sentences just waiting there. Or if he knows that it's going to be 20 minutes before the kids are ready and everybody is ready to leave the house, he would just go and unload the dishwasher or sit down on his laptop, and because he has a 20-minute window, he would just start writing sentences for his next blog post. That's the aim here. Filling out those empty time slots that are wasted otherwise. Now, that's not enough to fill or complete an entire blog or let alone a chapter for a book. That's not the point here. But he's utilizing those times. He has mastered the art of filling in those times that are wasted otherwise. The point is, stop thinking about the days in increments of 2, 3, 4 focused hours, but instead think about those 1440 minutes or 86,400 seconds every day. That's the point here. He's trying to say that if we always wait for the perfect moment, that perfect moment will never arrive. That's why there are many points that Matthew mentions in this book about how to prioritize the time that you have. And it might be different for different people, don't get me wrong. And there is an amazing example that he's trying to give here, where a friend calls him up and asks for a great pizza recommendation. And Matthew thinks that, oh, there is this pizza spot which is 90 minutes away, but it's A+. But there is another pizza spot which is 5 minutes down the road and it's B+. Now, if you ask Matt, he's obviously all about timing and maximizing his efficiency. So he's obviously going to choose the one that is 5 minutes down the road. But if you ask his wife if they should be driving everybody in a car and driving some time to go grab ice cream, she will always choose the ride with her kids to get ice cream. And the reason is that she has memories of doing the same thing with her parents, and she wants to cherish those moments and transfer them to her kids and build those similar moments for her kids. So she will always prioritize that drive over saving some time. So it's different for different people. She wants to create that mini picnic memory in her mind for her kids. Everybody needs to know what their priorities are. There is no right answer here, but absolutely know what you want. In my case, if I am asked, I would go by that 100-year-old rule, and I will always pick the drive with my family because I know that is the thing I'll remember when I am on my deathbed. Now, these are hypothetical situations, I get that. But when you translate it to serious questions, serious decisions, it is important to consider the time factor. For example, if you're making 100K a year right now with 40 hours of work where you get to clock off at 5 p.m. and not look at your emails. But now you're thinking of a promotion or a career change which gives you 200K a year. But instead of 40 hours, you're working 80 hours. So are you really making extra 100K a year? Because you're actually giving up 40 hours a week as well. So is it really 2x your income? So those are the types of questions you need to ask yourself when you're trying to buy back time, buy back freedom, or what are you willing to give away for a promotion or something else in your life? So those decisions matter. The time factor matters. And This is my way of looking at this. But then there is an additional thing that Matt doesn't talk about here. These are my thoughts on this, that because he has his way of saving time. That's it. Save time and spend it towards your family. But there is a specific thing that I don't think most people talk about it, is that sure, you are working 80 hours a week on that new promotion. But if you think of it in a business, let's say you are transitioning from a regular 9 to 5 job to a business, in order to jump that ship, you would have to spend those 80 hours, 100 hours, 60 hours for a couple of years before you actually buy back that freedom. What I mean is that it is okay to accept those 80 hours weeks as long as you know that they are specific seasons of your life. That if you know that you will be doing this just for a year, 2 years, maybe a couple of years, before you get more freedom back, more than what you had in your 9 to 5 job, then it's okay to give up time in that specific season of your life. I don't see Matt talking about this, but this is what I have thought about in the past, that it's this whole notion of work-life balance right now in the last decade or so has been blown out of proportion, because if you want to do something drastic, you have to spend drastic amount of time on it. Otherwise, everybody's just going to stay average. These are just my thoughts. That's it. All right. Principle number 3, maximizing efficiency. This one really clicked with me because I didn't realize this, but I do this as well. And it's about finding time in the most mundane tasks throughout the day. So after multiple iterations, you notice that if you know that there is a specific task you do day in and day out, every single day, you find the way to make that task as efficient as possible. Now, he talks about unloading a dishwasher. Now, I know it's a silly topic, but he's like, I know where all the dishes go, where all the cutlery goes. I know where all the mugs go. I know where all the drawers are and what time it takes for me to unload the entire thing. Now, it sounds silly, but he shows the math behind this, that if he unloads the dishwasher roughly 5 times a week, that's 260 times a year. That is 3,120 times in this house that he has lived for 12 years. Even if he shaves off 1 minute, he could shave off 4 hours every year. And in the 12 hours that he has lived in that house, that's 2 full days. Even he agrees that his wife thinks that he's crazy for knowing this level of math. But I kind of agree with him. And I'll tell you why I agree with this. Because I notice this too. When I wake up in the morning and I try to make my breakfast, I absolutely don't like when my wife interrupts that process. After doing it for so long, I know what comes first, what comes out of the fridge first, what goes on the stove first. I even know the exact time I need to start the toaster before I sit at my dining table when the breakfast is ready. Everything is super streamlined. I know this because I've done that day in and day out for years and years on end. Now, I know that it sounds crazy when I say this out loud, but it is what it is. But one thing that I would add on top of this is that this entire activity that I have is paired with something where I gain knowledge on a daily basis. And that is, I keep a pair of headphones in my bathroom when I go sleep at night. Because as soon as I wake up, I start a podcast or an audiobook that is constantly running in my ears while I'm making my breakfast. Now, I keep this with me because I like to think that it's a waste of time because it's a mundane task and I maximize the efficiency there. So why not do something even more productive and enjoyable at the same time? Now, this is just early morning and not everybody has that kind of time. I get it. But my commute is no more than 10 minutes of driving. But I still manage to listen to audiobooks or 1 or 2 or 3 hours of podcasts on a weekly basis. Only because I have a routine where I have maximized the efficiency of how I do things day in and day out. That's the aim here. Forget 10 minutes of driving, but even when I park my car, there is a 10-minute walk to my work. If you forget everything else that I just said right now, everybody parks their car and goes to their desk, walks probably 5-10 minutes each way. That's 20 minutes that you can dedicate towards listening to an audiobook or a podcast or gaining knowledge from any video that you like in the specific niche that you are interested in. 20 minutes every single day. So there is always time there for you to maximize the efficiency. And that's what I'm trying to say here. Now, these are about morning routines. I know that not everybody has the same luxury of driving less than 30 minutes to work one way. I get that. Not everybody is that privileged. But if you have that and you are interested in learning more and more about a specific topic you would like, that's 1 hour of driving that can be utilized towards this. That's what I'm trying to get here. Now, I understand not every day has to be the same, because sometimes you just want to call that friend, talk to your mom, call your friends. I understand that not every moment needs to be squeezed productivity out of. I get that. These are good points that Matt talks about. These are good points that I think that I noticed in my life. But there are a few things that were borderline psychotic even for me. And I was like, wait, that's pushing it. For example, he talks about that he eats oatmeal for lunch every single day because it takes 2 minutes in the microwave to cook and 3 minutes to eat. Or if you complain about not having enough time, you should not be having lunch with your coworkers every day. And he agrees that if that makes you happy, then sure, go have lunch with your coworkers. But then don't complain about not having enough time. So there has to be a fine balance between them. I don't think that there's one right answer there. The worst thing that he says is that he makes sure that he showers under 100 seconds every day, because the average American showers for 8.5 minutes every day, and he is saving 36.5 days a year by showering under 100 seconds. I am not doing that. In one point, he also talks about this Danish friend that he has, and he's telling Matt that he loves the idea of these one-stop shop grocery stores that United States has, that you can buy everything that you want in one grocery store, and that back in Denmark, if they want to buy bread, they would have to go to this specific bakery. If they want to buy produce, they have to go to this farmer's market. And they're wasting time this way. And Matt thinks that having Walmart or one-stop shop grocery stores is the best thing ever. I completely disagree with that. We cannot just consider the time factor here. I mean, there are physiological benefits of going to a farmer's market or going to a fresh bakery for that bread. There's no debate here. That's just how it is. We cannot always consider just the time factor. There are other benefits that we need to consider here. So there are a few things that I very much disagree with Matt on this. All right, moving on to the principle number 4, macro versus micro. Anytime we make decisions, it must go through a test of, will it matter in 5 minutes? Will it matter in a week? Will it matter in a year? You must spend time in the micro only if it matters in the macro. That's why he has a few sayings that he lives by. And those are, if it won't matter tomorrow, don't let it matter today. If I'm the only one who notices it, then it's not worth doing. He's talking about the spotlight effect there. Don't procrastinate on stupid menial tasks, because you could die in the next 5 minutes and you just ended up doing the stupidest task right before you died. So what's the point? And these applies to a lot of topics in a broad range of things, I think. There is this thing called the spotlight effect, where everybody thinks that everybody's looking at them, but in reality, everybody's just busy worrying about themselves. So why do things by just wondering that somebody else is paying attention to you? That's the spotlight effect. Or I understand this very much, because there are people out there who would organize their sock drawers based on colors, or they would label their silverware drawer in the kitchen because they don't want to mix up their forks and knives and spoons. That is an utter waste of time. Now, we all have seen fancy people who need to sit down and make notes, but they could only do that, or they could only read books when they have multiple color highlights sitting next to them with different post-it notes of different color codes. That is an utter waste of time, and that is an incredible way to procrastinate. That is one of the stupidest things that Matt thinks that people do out there in this world. We need to understand the importance of decision fatigue. It's a real thing. Every decision we make is going to drain energy out of you. So why waste energy on things that actually have no value to your life? Principle number 5 now is say yes. One day, Matthew gets a call from his friend Benji that, do you want to help me be a wedding DJ? And Matt thinks that this is a very, very crazy question, because in the last decade that I have known him, not once have I shown the desire of becoming a DJ, let alone a wedding DJ. And at that moment, Matt is actually attending college, working on a degree in English, attending another university to become elementary school teacher, working as a McDonald's manager at the same time, and in a relationship with the wrong woman, helping raise her kids. So what does he do? He naturally says yes. Only and only because what if this opportunity never comes again? And what if this opportunity opens doors that he knows nothing about right now? His only reason of saying yes is because he thinks that his 100-year-old version would be glad for bringing in this experience in his life. Now, just by simply saying yes, he has actually been a DJ for 454 weddings. And he goes into crazy details here that he started officiating weddings. He started baptizing kids because some parents came to him asking for that. And he has even attended and performed baby naming ceremonies. In all of this, he actually meets his now best friend. This best friend is the one who ignited the spark of writing online and writing books. So you see the whole point of saying yes a while ago, that brought him to this very exact point. Not only this, but because of saying yes all the time, he entered a story slam competition where it's a storytelling competition, and he eventually won a number of awards on that, which led to him starting his own storytelling business, and now he helps other people and teaches them how to tell better stories. Can you believe that? All because he said yes a while back for becoming a wedding DJ. That's all this is. Did he know that any of this is going to happen? Obviously not. Nobody does. But that's the whole point here, that if we say yes, you don't know what other doors you're opening in the future, the experiences you will get in the future, the new people you are going to meet, and how they are going to reshape your life. Just be open-minded and acceptable and adaptable about this. And I get it. Saying this is much easier. Implementing it is much harder. But look at me. I wanted to start this podcast almost a year ago, and I'm still in the early stages of this. I could have recorded so many episodes by now. But we need to understand that there is no just success or just failure. Every time we do something, we are learning from each mistake that we are making. It's as simple as that. Every time you do something, you learn from them, and then you grow from that. We never know where we decide to start something, and decades later, we end up somewhere else. So if nothing else, just keep that in mind. Failing again and again and again is an essential part of building something. You ask Matthew, who's the author of this book, Some Days Today. You ask Ali Abdul, who's the famous YouTuber. You ask Mr. Beast. He's the biggest YouTuber on the planet. You ask any one of these big people, or David Sendra. He's the host of this amazing podcast called Founders. All of these live by one philosophy. Don't even go looking for advice until you have 100 reps in what you are trying to do. 100 times. Until you do the same thing 100 times, don't even bother wondering the next step. Just do it one rep at a time. Just keep putting in more reps into it, and you will learn so much more than not starting at all, just thinking about how you should start. Instead, just start it right now wherever you are and learn as you go. There is this amazing podcaster out there. His name is Chris Williamson. He runs this. He's the host of this podcast called Modern Wisdom. He has almost 900 episodes right now, and he's huge right now. But I can't believe his first 20 episodes were so bad that I cannot even listen to him in one go. But do you think anybody remembers that? Do you think anybody remembers Mr. Beast's first 50 videos? No. Do you think anybody reads Matt's first 10, 50, 100 blogs? No, nobody remembers that. But the point is just to put in more reps after the other and just learn from them. Now, there are many, many such stories in this book, but those such stories include different productivity hacks, gratitude, compliments, the importance of storytelling as well. That's what he's really great at. But these were the principles that I thought were very beneficial for me to point out on this episode. Now, there are a lot of overlaps and commonalities with other productivity books out there too. But these are few things that I don't think I have heard by any other author out there. So that's the wrap. Anyways, let's move on to quotes. The first one is, organization for organization's sake is a fool's errand, perpetrated by people who don't value their time appropriately and forget how soon they'll be dead. If color coding papers in a folder costs you 10 minutes in labor, but saves only 30 seconds of effort, then don't do it. A lot of people really need to listen to this, including me. I'm guilty of this. Oh, I need to sit down and write my next episode. let me first clear out all the browsers that are open on my laptop right now. Oh, I need to write this script down on a Word document. Let me close out every other application that is open right now. Or let me just go look at the kitchen and see if the dishwasher needs unloading. It is absolute waste of time and an amazing way of procrastinating from what you really need to do in the moment. It just simply comes down to that we would try to do everything around us as long as we are able to justify that finishing that work will allow us to be at a better spot in the actual work, which is obviously not true. So that's all it comes down to. The work lies in the minor minutes, the black holes, the cracks that are sitting all around us. We just need to benefit from them. And the second quote is, your job as a creator, a maker of things, is to make your thing. But then put that thing on a proverbial shelf in your brain. Not on some shelf in a dusty pantry at the back of your brain, but on display in a place of prominence and importance. Keep it in a place in your mind, even if it's small and tangible, on an actual shelf in your home, where you will come across it often. Rather than forgetting about it and moving on to the next thing, imagine it as a glowing item looking to become something new and different and maybe even better. This is a super, super important one if you are listening to something or watching something in your learning phase through podcasts or YouTube videos. For example, I like to listen to podcasts or audiobooks when I'm out for a run or for a walk. But how do I make sure that I track that and I remember that? Because that moment is going to fly by very quickly. That's why have some sort of a note-taking method in your life. For me, I have a OneNote file always going that I have multiple notes in them that I gain from audiobooks and podcasts. Now, I know that I'm just going to write it down, but because it's there, even if I don't use it, it is sitting right in front of me, which I get to read anytime I open my OneNote app. Now, it's even if it's not going to be utilized right in the next script that I write, maybe few months later, maybe few weeks later, there might be something in those notes that I can benefit from in my next video. So that's the whole point here. Have some sort of a note-taking method. Always have something at the back of your brain or note it down of how you are going to grasp the information that you are learning from either a podcast or a YouTube video or anything else that you like. And someday it's going to come alive in the best way possible just because you noted it down a while back. All right, time for LSS, long story short, the 100-year-old rule. Anytime a new opportunity comes and you question if you want to say yes or no, ask your 100-year-old version. If they'll be glad that you said yes, then that's an absolute yes. Otherwise, it's a hard no. The yes rule. Sure, there are times where it needs to be a no. But if it's a no, but you don't even know why, then it should be a yes. I know that there is this notion out there that we should not be saying yes to anything and everything out there. But also remember that you might open up experiences around you just because you said yes a while back. If you don't like it, try it a few times and then convert that yes into a no. Nobody's stopping you. But if you say yes in the moment, that yes got Matt to be a DJ for 500 weddings and officiate weddings, baptize kids, got in touch with his now best friend, and he runs his storytelling business. All because he said yes and he liked what he saw, what came out of it. Now, that's the aim here. Always say yes if you don't know why it should not be a no, because it can be converted into a no if you don't like it. Next, use all of the 86,400 seconds of the day. There are many minutes spread out throughout the day that is wasted on things that have no importance or relevance in your life. Find those time slots and fill it with things that really, really matter. And the best way to do that is make those daily mundane tasks and maximize the efficiency that comes out of it. And not only that, but pair it up with something that you think doesn't require additional focus or dedicated time. Like I said, that I listen to podcasts or audiobooks while I do some other mundane tasks on a daily basis. That's what I'm trying to say here. Now, lastly, macro versus micro. Ask yourself if it's going to matter in the next 5 minutes, 5 weeks, 5 months, or 1 year. That's what you have to ask yourself. Keeping the spotlight effect in mind, that don't take decisions thinking that somebody else is looking at you, because everybody is busy worried about themselves. Nobody's looking at you. Try to avoid the decision fatigue because every decision you make is really draining you. So why make decisions that have no impact on your life, or worse, has negative impact on your life? Don't be that guy who color codes everything in their notes. Just don't. Just don't be that guy. Simple as that. All right, that's it. End of this episode. If you like this, subscribe to my podcast. If you think that I can talk about specific books, or if you know people that I can bring on as guests on this podcast, that would be great too. Let me know in the YouTube comments or the podcast RSS feed reviews. Let me know anywhere you think you can contact me. Please and thank you. See you in the next one.